Hi there, my name is Selena. Thanks for watching, and today is Wednesday, so that means it's Top 5 Wednesday. You can get more information about the Top 5 Wednesday group if you want to join, and I'll leave a link to the Goodreads page down below so you can get that information. And if you want to find more Top 5 Wednesday videos, you can follow the hashtag T5WFamily, which I'll also try to leave somewhere so you can get to that. But yeah, the Top 5 Wednesday for today is books with multiple POVs, multiple perspectives. And we were asked to find books that had more than just two perspectives. So I searched for books that I've read that had 3 or more perspectives. And I was successful. So let's get to it. Number 1 or 5, I'm not really putting this in any particular order, is the Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society. This book is an epistolary novel which is told entirely in letters. So I feel that that lends itself very nicely to having multiple perspectives in the storytelling, because it's the nature of letter writing. A couple of different perspectives. There's like a publisher, there's writers, common people that populate this small town, and it takes place during the time of World War II off of the coast of France in this small little community. And so the Nazis have invaded, and the people in that town try to create a society where they can kind of combat the oppression of the Nazis, and that's why they call themselves the Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society, trying to give it an innocuous name. But yeah, it just tells their harrowing story of living under the type of oppression, and they're coming together as a community. And interestingly enough, being a multiple perspective story, it was written by 2 women, and I think they're related, like aunt and niece or something like that, but Mary Ann Schaefer and Anne Barrows. So those are the authors of this story. Next up is Mark Halperin's Winter's Tale. This book is beautifully written and has multiple perspectives. It opens up, interestingly enough, with the perspective of the white horse that features in this story. And the horse is like a Pegasus kind of horse. It becomes one throughout the story. But anyway, it opens with the perspective of this horse wandering through New York City in like the 1800s. So this story takes place during the Victorian era, New York City, and it's like a parallel world, I would say. And then it moves to the perspective of Peter Lake, who is the hero of the story, the protagonist, and then there are sections with other perspectives. So you get to see the villain's perspective, Pearly something or other. But yeah, Pearly is the name of the villain, the gangster that Peter is running away from. And then there's a whole section, like part 2 or part 3, that takes place in a small lake town in the Hudson Valley, which is just slightly north of New York City. And that takes place also not just in a different location, but in the future. And the story kind of picks up from that point in the future, and then kind of weaves the Victorian era storyline with the present storyline. And yeah, it's a beautifully written story. Don't base the story off the movie, although the movie was good. The book, I think, is just written in just a beautiful language. Mark Halperin wrote poetry. It's wonderful. I was just amazed and stunned while reading this at certain turns of phrases that I found. I was just blown away by some of them. Maybe I'll share that on another video, but yeah. Then next up is Max Gladstone's 3 Parts Dead. I think that this is just a wonderful read. I've seen more people reading this lately. I got this copy at a library book sale, and I'm just glad that people are finally getting into this book. I read it last year, so if you have yet to read it, it's a fantasy, steampunky kind of urban fantasy story. It starts off each chapter sharing a slightly different perspective, and so you open up with perspective of a judge, and then you have the perspective of one of the gargoyle characters, and then you get Tara's perspective. Although we stick mainly with Tara's perspective throughout the story, Max Gladstone does sprinkle in other perspectives from other characters in the in this story. So other characters that feature, like I mentioned, you have the judge, you have Shale, who's a gargoyle. You also have Abelard, who is like a priest in this world. There's also a character who is like a black suit or justice of the peace kind of person, or a police officer, something kind of mashed up between police officer and justice of the peace. But you get that person's perspective. So a lot of different perspectives thrown in, and I thought that that added to developing this very rich world that Max Gladstone creates. And there is more to this book, more in this world, and I'm just really glad, because this world is just so, just wow. Then the next book I wanted to show you, I don't have a physical copy, so I can't, because I read it on my phone, and I'm using my phone to record this video, so I can't show it to you. But it is Rainbow Rowell's book Attachments, which I think was her first published work, but I'm not sure. Yeah, but Attachments. It's a story about a security guy at a like small town newspaper, and he is checking people's emails for like those red flag words. So he starts to get these red flag words from two employees, Beth and Jennifer. And so that's where the other perspectives come in, because you get the chance to read their emails, which is kind of similar to the Guernsey's Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society, where the story was told in letters. This story, while having Lincoln as the main narrative point of view, you get their emails that they send back and forth to each other, and there goes the other two perspectives in the story. And I think that that's interesting, and I like having that in the book, because it was good to not just have Lincoln's interpretation of what these girls are talking about and what they mean in their lives, but to hear their own words and their own emotions come through in the email just added more depth and more connection to the characters. And the last book that I'm going to show you is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. This is a frame narrative, and what I mean by that is that it opens with the character Robert Walton, something Walton, and he then is told the story by Dr. Frankenstein, and then inside of that you kind of get the monster's perspective. I think that starts around chapter 11-ish. I think chapter 11-ish. You start to get the perspective of Frankenstein's monster, and then it comes back out to Frankenstein, and then you end with Robert Walton. We're just going to call him Walton. Then you end with Walton kind of wrapping up the story. So it's a frame narrative, but you get, like I said, those three perspectives, those three different stories told by three different people. The section that's told by the Walton character, he's a ship captain, and they're on this expedition, and Dr. Frankenstein gets on this expedition on this ship to try to track down Frankenstein's monster. So the section by Walton is written in letters, and then the narrative portions are for Dr. Frankenstein and Frankenstein's monster. So those are the three perspectives. I think it's an interesting way to tell a story, and not necessarily one that always comes through in the movie adaptations. Don't necessarily always get the that other layer, that Robert Walton layer, as a major perspective, but I think it's an important way of wrapping up this story. So that's it. Those are my books with multiple POVs. Let me know if you have any other interesting books that have multiple POVs down in the comments, and talk to me if you read any of the books that I've shown you. Please, let's talk about books. Okay, bye.